What's up, y'all? I'm out here on the range, as you can see back behind me, starting to get cloudy. I've been waiting on these doggone clouds all day to block some of this baking hot sun. It's been real humid out here with all the rain we've had for the past week. This sun is really sweating things up out here. But of course, now that I'm on the last test of the day, like I say, the clouds is covering up the sun and I'm getting a nice little breeze. I've still managed to get a couple of really interesting tests done out here, and this one right here should be some interesting 45 ACP. So the jelly contraption's hanging in out here, ready for one more test. I've got a couple of chronos and 2 blocks of gel. Now I've done a couple of tests so far, so we got some tracks in both of these blocks, but as you can see, I've got a nice channel up here in the front. This stuff that I'm testing is messy anyway, so these blocks are gonna be pretty messy by the time this is done. Of course, you know I always use a heavy clothing barrier that's got a layer of denim, fleece, and 2 layers of cotton t-shirt. And what we got for this one is some stuff that was sent to me by TNAP, so I really appreciate that. This, I'll have to admit, is not something that I would personally go for. It would not be one of my first choices or maybe even my last choice, but I know some people do like this stuff, and we're gonna see what it does out here today anyway. So as you can see, I'm talking about the G2 Research RIP rounds, and to be more specific, these are in 45 ACP. Now I'm sure a lot of y'all are familiar with these RIP rounds. Some people think they're nothing but a gimmick. Some people really like them. They're kind of similar to a Liberty civil defense kind of thing, where you've got all these little pieces around the outside perimeter that break off and cause their own little channels, and then you've got the one center core that keeps on going. Now again, this one is in 45 ACP. You can see nice nickel plated case, and there's that very unique looking projectile. You've actually got 8 of these little petals around the outside and then the center piece, so you should be looking at 9 different channels from this thing. Now I did look up the info on their site. This is actually a 162 grain projectile, so odd kind of weight, and to be light like that, it's not moving very fast at all. They're claiming 960 feet per second from a 5-inch barrel, so sub 1,000 for a 162 45 ACP is pretty slow in my book. And one other thing I'll mention right quick that a lot of people have against this stuff is just pretty much the whole stigma of it. I mean, look at the name, look how it's kind of made, you know, for max damage, so on and so forth. So, you know, you get a lot of people who won't use stuff like that because of the image of it. You know, if ever anything ever did happen, what would happen legal wise. So I'm personally not one of those people. I'm gonna worry about that later. First priority is defending myself. So if you're one of those people though, this would obviously not be the round for you. Now I'm gonna run these things out of a couple different barrel lengths here. I've got a shorty in my Glock 30. It's got the 3.8-inch barrel, and then we've got a full-size Rock Island 1911 with a 5-inch barrel. So like I say, I already know that these personally aren't my kind of thing, but again, I know some people do like them. Let's get all this stuff set up and see what they can do. All right, let's see how fast this stuff's moving, y'all. I'm gonna do a 5-round average from each barrel length, starting with this G30 first. Now, if y'all aren't familiar with this lab radar, like I always explain, you're gonna see multiple velocity readings from it. The large number is right here at the muzzle, and then you've got 5 across the bottom. The first one of those is set for 3 yards, which is roughly where the gel is here at 10 feet. And then I've got the other set for 10, 15, 25, and 50 yards. So now remember, this is saying 960 from a 5-inch barrel, so we shouldn't see that here. I'll be curious to see what we do get from it. 958, 953, 958. Pretty light recoil from this stuff. 963. And 939, so surprisingly, we were right there at the velocity that they claimed out of a 5-inch. Let's check out the average. All right, so surprisingly, our 5-round average right there was 954 feet per second, extreme spread of 24 with a 9.1 standard deviation. So pretty good consistency right there, and it was right there at the 960 that they claimed from the 5-inch. So glad to see that. Also, again, like I mentioned, light recoil on that stuff and not very loud at all. So just to hit on a few of the positive points about it. But let's switch over to that Rock Island and see what it does. All right, let's see what they do from this 5-inch. I definitely expect to see that 960 and then some after seeing that G30. Very light recoil from this. 997, 998, 990, 986. I don't know if y'all can hear that. That's the weirdest sound I've ever heard. That's the weirdest sound I've ever heard out here from this stuff right here. That was so strange. I hope that picked up on camera. It was almost like a whistling echo instead of like a normal cracking echo. That was really strange. Let's see what the average was. All right, so once again, I've got to give credit for the loading on this stuff right here. We had a 5-round average of 992, an extreme spread of 12 with a 5.4 standard deviation. So really nice consistency from both of these barrel lengths. 992 above what they're claiming from a 5-inch barrel. Now, I still say that is awfully slow for a 162 grain projectile, but I'm glad to see it is actually living up to the velocity numbers anyway. So 992 right there, and if you remember out that G30, it was 954, so you're talking about 38 feet per second difference between these. That makes total sense just based on the barrel length right there. So again, really glad to see that this stuff is loaded, looks like really nicely. But all that being said, I have no doubt that this stuff is going to perform like they claim it's going to perform, but it's still just personally not my thing. Let's get all this stuff set up. Y'all know what time it is. All right, y'all, it's the DA's dream come true jelly time. We'll put one through each barrel length into the gel, starting with this G30. Now, I can tell you right now, we're most likely not going to catch all these petals because they're claiming about an 8-inch spread. So, you know, do the math. A 6-inch block ain't going to catch all of those. Let's see what happens here. The middle's supposed to go 13 to 16 inches. All right, that looks about what I expected it to look like. Let me go check it out. All right, y'all, I done goofed up big time. Obviously, you can already see that first one did a fantastic job, and I just sat here talking about it and sent this one from the Rock Island and forgot to hit record on this camera right here. So I had the slow-mo and all recording in my chrono, so y'all will see it entering the block, but you don't get to hear me rambling on. Basically, what I was just talking about is actually it looks better than I thought it would. That stuff just runs all together, so it looks exactly like it's supposed to right now, and that's one thing I have to give this stuff credit for. It usually does exactly what it claims to do, other than maybe one instance I can think of that it didn't. So far looking so good. Let's go down there and check this stuff out. All right, let's check this stuff out down here, y'all. I gotta tell you, I'm not really as disgusted by this as I thought I was gonna be. Now, again, I'm definitely going with just a standard, conventional, nice expanding lead round over any of this stuff. But again, I'm a little surprised at how well it looks like it did. Another reason I hate that I forgot to hit record on that Rock Island round, obviously it was put perfectly, so I wanted y'all to see that. But it also made that really weird report, that whistling report sound. It didn't quite make it, but you could tell, right, it didn't have time to keep going to get down range to make that whistle report. But that's very, very odd. Those y'all who have run this stuff, if you have run it in like a longer barrel that got it moving really, really fast, let me know in the comments, are you hearing like a whistling report down there at a distance? But anyway, let's take a look at this stuff. So on the top here, that's the one out of the G30. The one on the bottom is the Rock Island 1911. They basically look identical. You got a little bit more penetration on this Rock Island, but other than that, this part right here looks just the same, and it did exactly what it claimed to do. It split into all 9 little petals. All of those 9 petals went out and dispersed. They look like they all got the same amount of penetration. We lost probably what, 1, 2, 3, 4. Looks like we lost at least 4 from that first one, and probably 2 or 3 from that second one. So we caught most of them. They look really, really nice spread out. And then that centerpiece, sure enough, keeps on trucking. This one's down here, I would guess about 13 inches or so, and then the one from the 1911 up under it is about 1/2 inch to an inch further. So nice penetration from the center core. I'm definitely curious to see what the weight of that centerpiece is. So as far as your penetration measurements, the center core on this G30 is out at exactly 13 inches, so just exactly what they claim. And then the one down there, the center core from the 1911, is actually at 13 and a half. So nice penetration from both of those. I'd personally like to see a little more. That's kind of one of my concerns a lot of times with this ammo. But right there where they claimed it to be, as far as all your little petals, you looking at it starts, those things start breaking off right at about an inch, and they travel anywhere between 3.5 to 6 inches. That whole field right there is full of those little petals. And as far as the diameter, I mean, we lost some, so I would say their claim of 7 to 8 inches is right on, because if I go here, that's 6 inches, and then we lost some, so 7 to 8 inches of spread with those petals seems to be about right. And here's your closer look of them, a little bit messy, but again, this is just the nature of the beast with this stuff. You can see there, though, we caught most of those petals. Very nice looking. This stuff does look really cool in the gel. You follow those tracks all the way through here. There's the one from the G30, and then there's the one from the 1911. So really nice looking performance as far as what these things are supposed to do. And then from the top, basically more of the same. Very interesting though, if I line those things up on top of each other, look how much they look the same. I mean, those things look identical, even the little patterns of the petals. So really cool there. And then you follow the cores on through here. All right, let's check out these projectiles, y'all. Really unique looking stuff here. This is the first time I've tested any of these RIP rounds, so this is the first time I'm seeing them with the stuff broken off. Definitely a unique look, a lot different looking than like the Liberty Civil Defense, that centerpiece that keeps going on it. You can see these are much more of a clean break, a really smooth break. Pretty interesting to see that, and it is a nice little chunk of copper that keeps on going. And then as far as the little petals, I just pulled one of those out because they're all the same. They're all exactly the same. They all made a really nice clean break. I don't know how well you can see. Very, very nice clean break on all those little petals. But let's get some measurements on these things and see what we're working with. It started at 162 plus or minus is what they said. So basically 162. This little center core, that one is 84.8, and then this one is 83.9, so roughly 84, 85 grains. And then these little petals here, that one is 9.8. So if you say roughly 10, 8 of them, so that gives you 80. These are about 84, so that's 164. So yeah, that puts you right there where they're supposed to be. And then as far as sizes on them, we'll see what the diameter and how thick they are. This one here is 442 with a thickness of 285, and then this one here is 444 with a thickness again of 285. And then just really quick measurement on this pedal, your thickness here, the biggest way, you got like 125, and then as far as the length on them, you're looking at 525. So some pretty nice little shrapnel there and a decent little chunk with that core. And there you go, y'all, the G2 Research RIP rounds in 45 ACP. Pretty interesting stuff here. Again, I'm not as totally disgusted as I thought I would be, but like I say, I'm definitely not going to be running these. I'm worried about the little core here, the little bit lack of penetration. Now, it did what it claimed, and it's probably adequate, but I'm just a little more worried about that than some people probably are. So even though they're not personally for me, I would say these didn't do bad as far as this type of round. This is probably one of the better performers when you're talking about these fragmenting kind of rounds. All right, y'all, I think that's a good way to end out a pretty interesting day of testing. I have to say I'm a little surprised with the performance out of these. I didn't expect them to do terrible, but I did expect much less than what I saw, especially as far as penetration with that centerpiece. That's usually one of my main concerns about this stuff, is how light that little centerpiece gets. I think one thing that helped this 45 ACP, like kind of those Syntec rounds, is these aren't super light for caliber. Now, they are light for caliber, but they're nothing like, you know, 80 grain 45 ACP or anything like that. So in this case, I think that actually helps with this type of round to get that centerpiece, that momentum of that centerpiece still moving along. Now, if I were to use these right here, one thing I would definitely like to see is a little more velocity. I think when you're talking about lighter for caliber rounds right here, the extra velocity that you get from that lighter projectile is absolutely the benefit and where they shine. So if you're not going to get extra velocity from a lighter projectile, then why are you carrying a lighter projectile. But let me know what y'all think about it down in the comments. Do any of y'all actually run any of these RIP rounds in 45 ACP or some other caliber? If you do, what are you running in? Have you tested them on different stuff? What do you think about them? Let me know down in the comments what your thoughts are. If you enjoyed the video, take a second to reach down and hit that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you've got those notifications turned on so you get notified when I upload stuff. Check out those affiliate links in the video description. Like I always remind you, anything you get after hitting those links up, I get a kickback from them towards the channel, so I really do appreciate that. Again, a big thanks to all my Range Gang members and every single one of y'all for supporting the channel the way y'all do. Definitely some interesting stuff done out here today, and I've got some really good ones planned, so stay on the lookout for that. And in the meantime, stay safe, stay prepared, and I'll see you soon.